Welcome, welcome, welcome to the Master Connector Show.
Steve Spiro, you're a mentor, you're a consultant, you're a business owner, but most importantly, you're a host of your own show and you're also a master connector.
Steve Spiro is one of my idols, and I love listening to everything that he does. He's such a dynamic individual.
Some of the topics I really enjoy speaking on is how to really connect, whether it be in person or through social media. I love to lead with my weaknesses. I lead with, my vulnerabilities. It's fine because I'm okay with who I am. Number two is how to go from being inward focused, self-focused, into others focused. Being willing to give and go out there and look to serve. That will attract the right things. Another one is on leveraging LinkedIn to really grow your business. You could reach a lot more people. You could broadcast a message to people that actually consented to want to know you. And then lastly, overcoming big obstacles.
I love sharing. I was a shy, introverted kid, picked on, bullied, learning disabled, dyslexic, really in a dark place. I was really in a box, in a shell, and I've been able to break out of that box. And so I love being able to inspire people and really help them. So the Master Connector was born.
The world is my networking event. Right? I meet people all the time. My goal is to meet 3 strangers every single day.
Steve is open to meeting you. You should set up a face-to-face with Steve. One little conversation can really change your life. All right, let's get into it, LinkedIn. We are excited to be with you. We're going to get it rolling. Steve, can you get us started on this subject?
Absolutely. Hey, what's going on, friends? Steve Spiro, the Master Connector, coming at you live and direct here. So I got a question for you. What does style mean? Well, I looked it up. And style is defined, I went to like Wikipedia or whatever. It's like style, a manner of doing something different, or a manner of doing something, actually. A distinctive appearance typically determined by the principles according to which something is designed. Now, listen, we all have different styles, whether it's long hair or short hair or shaved head or no hair, or, we're conservative or we're expressive. We have tattoos or we're clean cut. I could go on, right? But do you accentuate your style or do you blend in? That's really the kind of the question, right? How do you stand apart? Ultimately, it's up to you. So this episode, we're going to explore a very unique perspective on leveraging style with your LinkedIn brand. And we're going to kind of get into that a bit. So if you're ready, amazing community. We love you guys. If you're ready, we want you to type into the chat right now, #let's go. And we'll have Cameron introduce our amazing featured guest today. Cameron,
we're going to put JD on the screen here. JD Gershbein was talking about LinkedIn early. In 2006, when the global economy was on the brink of recession, JD took a leap of faith and hung out his shingle as a LinkedIn consultant. In doing so, he became one of the first in the world to carve out a livelihood solely around LinkedIn. Fast forward to the present day, JD has built a widely recognizable brand in a hyper-crowded marketplace in an industry that has become commoditized. His longevity, originality, and a distinctive style. He is a speaker, media producer, corporate trainer, and improvisational and sketch comedy student at Chicago's famed Second City. I am pleased to introduce our audience to a guy who has made LinkedIn his own and helped thousands of professionals find their way on LinkedIn and make their mark in the digital age. Through his signature round lenses, JD will lay out what he envisions as the next frontier on LinkedIn and provide valuable insights on using LinkedIn to create positive futures. Please welcome the owl of LinkedIn, JD Gershbein.
Is this where I say thanks for having me?
There you go.
All right, boy, I tell you, my blood pressure jacked up. I put out a lot of adrenaline just listening to that intro, Cameron. I always ask my organizers to bring me out with gusto, and you have not only answered the call, you have exceeded expectations.
There we go. Thank you very much.
I
sir.
warned you, JD. He's our Michael Buffer,
I'll tell you. I'll tell you.
Let's do it. Steve, get us started on the way here. Let's ask JD a question and get the conversation rolling.
Absolutely. So, community, if you're ready, I'm going to ask a question here. You know, we're all about stories. So type in the hash in the comments right now, #story, and we're going to get started. So the first question, JD, for you, sir.
Yes, sir.
With respect. Well, what's the story with the glasses?
What's the story with the glasses? Well, I want to let everybody know that I was wearing round glasses well before the Harry Potter craze. They're actually an homage to former Beatle, the late great John Lennon. A year after his unfortunate and premature death, a big Beatles fan, I was shopping at my optical shop, saw a pair of round frames, and decided, yeah, that's the kind of look that works for me. So I've been wearing round eyeglass frames since 1981. And when the time came to name my company back in the day, I chose Owlish Communications, another story. So the whole owl round glasses thing is a nice tie on. It works for me, gents.
Love it. That's awesome. Fantastic. So, yes, listen, I'm a Beatles. I don't know who isn't a Beatles fan, right? And it was tragic. I remember when we heard the news. It was, and I could start going into a song right now.
It's horrible, man. I
yeah.
mean, and with all of the resurgence of storytelling as the new marketing, and the Beatles telling their story through Paul McCartney, who's really become the steward of the Beatles story. But I know we're diverging and digressing, but it's fun to diverge.
No, it's all good. Listen, we're all about improv, right?
It's all about style, my friend.
That's it. It's all about style. That's exactly right. So, well, yeah. So we're going to dive into the next. So that I'm glad you said that, because that's going to be the next thing we want our community to type in right now. Type in the word #style ? Right? Style ? And we're going to go into that. So what does it mean to connect with style? To Mr. JD Gershbein, what does that mean to you?
Well, it's interesting, Steve. One of the things that I've researched heavily in my now 16 years as a LinkedIn specialist is how people go about doing things, how we reveal ourselves on the site. And we're on a program that's rolling out to LinkedIn via a live stream. People are stopping in their tracks, ideally, and watching this for in segments, in spots, or in its duration. And then they're going to go back to their regular LinkedIn activity, which is just kind of letting their eyes roll in soft focus across the platform, finding people to sell. And it's unfortunate that right now we're in a digital age where people are selling us something at every turn. And breaches of etiquette abound on LinkedIn, unfortunately. The platform has come with terms of service and an understanding that we will be good citizens on the platform, but yet we continue to pitch ourselves. And many times it's overt. Many times there are people that just come off as shameless hucksters. And it's getting to the point where are the heart-centered relationships? How do you truly develop these professional relationships? And you do it through your personality. You integrate a way of doing things. You approach people respectfully and courteously, and you keep the sales pitch in the background, and you get to know people, which I know is a big part of your platform as well. There's no buy or moving forward with anyone these days without first developing that foundation of trust that we hear so much about. Yet, why is it that so many people want to bypass that process and go right for the sell? And that's what's kind of infuriated and annoyed me through the years. And I'm leading a movement now to really do things stylishly on LinkedIn, because that's what's going to get you to the dance. Genuinely approaching people, being transparent, being authentic, for lack of a better word, another kind of a hyper-used word these days, and developing the relationship stylishly through your own organic efforts, really bringing it with sensitivity and a want to do good type of attitude.
That's great. Yeah, I think when we were talking about the show connecting with style, I think the thing that came to mind is, this fashion statement, right? Which is not really what we're talking about here. We're talking about maybe to a degree class, approaching LinkedIn with some class. We're talking about approaching it with, not a, like you said, salesy approach, not a blatant approach. And listen, there's people out there that are showing a lot of skin. Let me say it like that, as a way to attract attention. And, you know, it's like you said, it's a bit shameless, I would say, right? So hopefully,
Yeah.
this show today will kind of help, you know, clarify to people the direction and what we want to hear. What are you going to say?
Right. Well, no, I think that to your point and to the point of the program, how do we make an intellectual and emotional, and in some cases, a visceral connection with people? What is the purpose of being on LinkedIn? That kind of rationale. LinkedIn is the king of the heap in social media right now. It has withstood every security breach, every negative connotation out there in the social media industry. And yes, social media is an industry. It really has risen to the top of what people perceive social media to be. And it's around the business conversation, which has its own political correctness and gravitas and formality and convention. So if we are to do business, advance our careers, curry favor with a decision maker, we have to bring our own stylish way of doing it. There's no playbook anymore. The playbooks have been thrown out. And since the onset of the global pandemic in March of 2020, it has revamped the landscape. It has changed up everything in the way that we bear ourselves to people we want to connect with.
That's great. And, you know, yeah, Cameron, you
Steve,
yeah.
I just wanted to jump in here, and in giving service, you know, what we've been talking about, being a go-giver, not being just a transactional thing, building community, right, is essentially what we're talking about. So I wanted to shout out to our community. We got some great comments. Diana Mooring, hate the pitch slap. Joseph Zahidis in the action, talking about transaction relationships versus relationship-centric transactions. We appreciate you. Robert Snyder, I just sent him the link so his stuff would show up in the feed. Distinguished Mechanics and Style, love it. We got a lot of people jumping in here, so I want to shout them out. Yolanda Chen, Bob Musial, Lisa Shaw, thanks all for jumping on and being in the comment section. Make sure you're connecting with each other and building community as we go along here.
Absolutely, it's great. And you know, thank you for that, Cameron. And our community is amazing. And you know, so one of the reasons why I wanted to brand my, you know, create my personal brand, Master Connector versus Master Networker, is because it is about connection. It's not just, and I was on a call this morning. I'm hoping she's on a call with us today. But she said to me, I saw Master Connector, and her interpretation of that was because you really like to connect with people. And I don't think she meant as in like, you know, add them on social media and have a new connection. She meant connecting, you know, in a real way. Mm-hmm. She's right. But that's one piece of it, right? But I, you know, it's very important, I believe, that whatever persona, whatever we want to, you know, label ourselves as or show ourselves as or put forth ourselves as is important. And it's number one, like you said it before, JD, it's important to be authentic. And then the second thing is to make sure that it stands out and it's a little bit different, but not different in a crass way, like you said as well. It's got to be different in a way that is you know, is done in a tasteful kind of way. So,
well, people have been so desensitized to being on the receiving end of a pitch, and right. There's no denying that LinkedIn is set up for self-promotion, but there's an artful way to do it. And there's a way to appeal to the sensibilities of other people without just rushing in and trying to dominate the conversation with your products, your services, your demo, your skill sets. And when people are connecting these days on LinkedIn, there's a certain kind of nonverbal digital posturing that's going on. We're tinkering with the profiles more than ever before. The pandemic has given everybody an opportunity to reassess, recalibrate, rebrand, reimagine themselves. So we're putting ourselves out there in kind of a different version than pre-pandemic for the most part. And people are pivoting within the pivot, micro pivoting, as I like to call it. So one of the things that comes out in my teaching with clients is situational branding and applying yourself to suit the needs of each encounter, each interaction on LinkedIn. And LinkedIn, when done right, is a platform that installs us into any number of scenarios during the course of a given user session. How are we going to handle ourselves? How are we going to reveal ourselves? What are people going to think of us on the receiving end? Do we have a shot at a 30-minute follow-up Zoom call after we connect? These are things that kind of play into our thinking in terms of making the connection, but we default to other behaviors. And well, I don't, but other people do. And that's why we get a lot of these annoying, intrusive, offensive sales pitches. It's what I call the ugly side of digital marketing, Steve and Cameron. It's people are buying these software overlays to take themselves out of the process of connecting, and there's no human connection to be made through AI. Once you introduce automation into LinkedIn, sorry, folks, it doesn't work. You have to reinstall yourself into the equation. I'm quoted these days as saying LinkedIn is like a raffle. You must be present to win.
There you go. I love it. It's great. That could be our mic drop moment right there. You know,
I think one of the things that we were excited about, Steve, was when we got some tools that allowed us to reach out to people, but allowed for the human element, right? And so you can see this, you can automate stuff in your office, but I think it always comes back to, what's that level of automation? Is it good to set up a system and a process? Yes. Is it good to have an automatic reply to every response? Maybe not, right? Maybe the thing there is, all right, now we're at a step. Maybe you got, an initial reaction. And what I'm talking about is, a client request comes in. And so maybe you got something automated that says, hey, we received your request. We're working on it. We'll get back to you in 24 hours. That's good. The client knows that, it's been received in the system. What's bad is if you just get an automatic thing that tells you, okay, we got it and it's done with, right? And there's no notice that, the human interaction, the caring is coming, right? And
right.
So I think that's really important to remember as people are fine tuning their systems and processes. And I remember working in an office where, they started messing with us, on the staff side, where it was like, okay, everything's automated, every step, you got to click a button. And at the end of the day, we're just clicking buttons and you get in the way. So it goes both ways, right? This automation of like following up with people, it becomes inhuman and inappropriate.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's true. It's very true. So yeah, there is, I believe, to Cameron's point, and we have some tools that we use for automation, but I believe that if it can't be in the dialogue and the conversation. It could be, like in my case, for the most part, my initial reach out is pretty much almost identical for everybody. But once I get into a dialogue, then I want the conversation to be very custom and specific. So I agree with you. There needs to be a personal touch to this.
Yeah, I think it's cool to have loose templates. I'm the same way, gents. But I connect with people with purpose and with intent. And I always like to frame the relationship. So if I'm connecting with someone on LinkedIn, I'm giving them all of the backstory they need so that if they ever forget me, and who could forget me, they can always go back into the thread and see, okay, where did I meet this youngster? Oh, we were at that luncheon, or we were at that virtual meetup. So I like to provide a nice framework around how we met. And people who have ever been on the receiving end of my invitations know that they are personalized to the extent that it pinpoints how we came into each other's sphere and build from there. The connection isn't, the point of invitation is just the start. And so many people feel that they work so hard to get the connection that after that they go dark in each other's directories for the next decade.
It's funny, and I get people that accept my connect request, and I message them wanting to jump on a call, and it still baffles me that they're like, I'm good, no thank you. I'm like, well, why did you bother to connect with me then? I'm not really sure why you wanted to connect with me, but I guess for you, it's just you're as we've referred to in the show before as a LinkedIn lurker. You like to just lurk, and you need to participate, right?
There are people that just like to operate from the weeds.
Yeah.
on the sidelines. But obviously, the rubber meets the road through human interaction on this site.
100%.
And more than any other site, guys, this is set up for that type of interaction. And it's a site around the business dynamic and how do people approach themselves in business at a real world networking event.
Exactly.
It's very similar. You have to be very tailored in your approach. You have to stylize your own way of communicating. And I think that's really what got me on this path of developing style and kind of reinventing myself as a LinkedIn style guide, is because there's so much redundant information out there. Everybody's
Yeah.
kind of spewing the same stuff, what to do in this situation, what to do in that situation. And I'm an improv student. It doesn't work. Everything is different. There's so much unpredictability about human relationships. Everything is different. It's case by case, and you have to really kind of fluctuate and flow according to the situation. And through that, if you do it enough times, you'll develop a sense of style. You'll figure out how to talk about yourself, how to
Yeah.
deliver your 15 or 30 seconds, and you'll create intrigue and ideally draw more interested people to your LinkedIn profile.
I think that's the ultimate bottom line is creating intrigue. Cameron, if you could throw that up on that there was that one quote from the gentleman. We get these messages. I'm sure all of us do. And here it is. Hi, it's from Joseph. Joseph Z. I'm not going to attempt
Joseph
to
Sahidus. He says, my name is blah, 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 right? I see we have a number of common connections, 0, and I have a product that has helped many senior managers, and I delete the in-mail message.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. It happens a lot. For
Well,
sure.
that's how people try to find their in, and it's annoying, and
It is annoying.
it doesn't convert. It's basically you're reaching.
Yeah.
I see we both live in the greater New York City area. I mean, wow. Do you know Steve?
Yeah.
That kind
Yeah,
of
maybe
thing.
we know each other.
Yeah.
There's only what was it? 100 million people here in this area, but yeah, we probably know each other. Right?
Exactly. I have my own kind of methodology for what I would call the lukewarm approach, because cold approaches, I will typically prelude with an in-mail. I like to send an in-mail and get someone's permission to connect with them before I send them the actual connection request. So I'm kind of a step-by-step guy, and because I build my network organically and systematically with people that I really want in my professional community, I take the time. I'm the guy that's going to do the follow-up, the circle backs, the reach out, the touch base. I'm that guy. I don't let people off the hook very easily. If they're
You didn't let
connecting
me off
with
the hook,
me,
that's for sure.
if they're connecting with me, to your point, what's the point? Let's have a 30-minute Zoom conversation and figure out what we can co-create. How can we collaborate for the greater good, as opposed to, hey, how are you fixed for data storage?
Oh my gosh. Well, listen, we got to keep this rolling. We got 30 minutes and we're halfway through that, but beyond that. So I want to get into one other question here. And I want my community to type in the word how right now, HOW.
Right.
And we're gonna ask a question. We're talking about people. Some people have quote unquote lost their way, right? And so you mentioned, in the intro, Cameron, spoke about, how, that you help others find their way. So how have you helped others to find their way?
Boy, that's a great question. And it gets to the core of what we would call LinkedIn coaching / consulting / training today. There's so many people in the industry. Everybody's a self-declaring LinkedIn expert. Who do you pick? Who's your advisor? And what goes into the making of someone who can really lead you well on the site and engender confidence in your abilities? I have 6 figures of study hours on this thing. I'll go toe to toe with anybody on the societal aspects of LinkedIn, the social networking piece, the personal branding piece. But helping others, I've had to kind of develop my own coaching style and leadership style around that. So I bring people to LinkedIn in a way that I feel is commensurate with their learning, their personality, and their tolerance for risk, because then they can start to develop their own unique take on LinkedIn. They're not going to need me at some point. They can make their own decisions and become more competent on the site. So the value of of a real strong LinkedIn advisor these days is basically leading them to the water, asking them questions. Do you think? Or what would you think? Or have you considered? Or how would you approach this? As opposed to, well, here's what I think you should do.
I love that. Can
I
I just
never,
say, I just got to tell you, I love that approach
yeah.
because I feel like, and I did a post recently. It's, and it was, what's the difference between a guest and a pest? It's an invitation. And a lot of times people aren't necessarily ready to hear it. So give them the tools to figure it out themselves is so much easier. I know Cameron has 16 kids or whatever, a lot of kids. And as a parent, you have to get people to want to do something. And often that requires, some finesse. It requires people skills, right? So,
yeah.
But I agree with that for sure.
Yeah, if I'm gonna be this style guide, if I'm gonna go out there and talk about style and about being on brand and developing trusted relationships, what's the engine? What's the machine that gets them there? Well,
Sure.
they're not gonna bring me in to do that. That's something they've got to figure out themselves.
Yep.
So these days, LinkedIn, let's face it, guys, it has become much more complex to teach. It's not easy. And for anybody that's contemplating going into the LinkedIn trade, get ready because you're as important in the lives of your clients as any other advisors they have.
Sure.
And that's how I've branded. I've branded as an advisor type. I'm not just some hack that created a LinkedIn profile for his uncle and thinks he can go out and do lunch and learns at Fortune 500 companies. I've paid my dues and I've watched the site evolve. And I use my status as an early adopter to great advantage these days because I can speak to the chronology and timeline of this. And now we're in a new era. The pandemic has reshaped the entire LinkedIn playing field.
I wanted to get this question in because you're talking about, this LinkedIn and how things have evolved over time. And Diana Mooring has this question, but does it stand to say it has been working for them if they continue to do it? Right. And so I think we're going to get into the territory of, sales and number games and things like that, but I don't get it. I don't agree with it, but someone has to be falling for it or they would stop. Right. So she's saying, well, we're saying it doesn't work, but there's a lot of people doing it. So it's got to be working for somebody or else all these people wouldn't be doing it. Right. So what do you say to that?
I think it's working for people that don't really care about the human element and just they view people as pipelines and funnels and ratios and sales pitches and dynamics and follow-ups and closing. And, granted, we're on LinkedIn to do business, to close business, to be purveyors of our products and services. And that happens. But it's much better when it happens organically. And maybe it's a sign of maturity. I mean, who would have thought me and maturity would be in the same sentence? But I've just looked at the way I've handled my own business career. And I had a 9-year stint in sales and learned the process of selling people. And I never went in there with the idea of just closing people and being that much like the Alec Baldwin Blake character in Glengarry Glen Ross, which we all kind of know, love, and lampoon. It's not about coffee is for closers. It's about finding fit and alignment and centering yourself and keeping yourself grounded in a hyper competitive space right now and making a difference in the lives of your clients. Yeah. We all want good business.
For sure.
We do. We want business that stays on the books. We want people who will be able to recall us and refer us. And that doesn't happen without the initial connection. And that's why it's very offensive when I get sales pitches right at the invitation to connect, or people that just bait and switch me and just use 30 minutes of Zoom time to sell me. It's just nauseating at this point.
I gotta talk about that movie though, Glengarry Glen Ross, right? ABC, always be closing, right? Mm-hmm. But it's really ABC, always be connecting, right? That's how we need to think about it, right? Always be connecting meaningfully, not just in a click a button connecting. But I will say this: I'll throw out an answer to the question that I forget who asked
Diana Mooring.
Yeah, and I would say this: I would say, number one, it's lack of training, lack of experience. And there might be a lot of people out there, because if you Google search or you go onto LinkedIn and search BDR, business development reps, there are hundreds of thousands of them. doesn't mean that they're sustaining themselves as a career and they're being successful as a BDR. They may quit after 2 weeks of not getting any responses. So just because people are out there sending that pitchy message doesn't mean that there's a lot of effectiveness with it. Just keep that in mind. I heard it said, if you have thousands and thousands of flies around the poop, the horse poop, it doesn't mean that we should all go grab horse poop because thousands of flies are doing it, right? Doesn't mean that because a lot of people are doing it, we should all do it, and it's right to do. It just means people are doing it. Doesn't mean it's right.
It's not stylish. It is a direct mail approach. And again, because your show really orbits around the idea of connection and all that goes into it, and because LinkedIn is such a powerful instrument in human connection now, it truly is. It's an incredible invention. That's where we need to focus. And again, that direct mail approach, the concept that if some company has an overlay, a software overlay that's going to churn out tens of thousands of spammy invitations to connect, horrible breach of ethics. And they're going to get a few people who will be interested, but more than that, they're going to get people who ignore and delete. I mean, it just fuels the fire of this ugly.
It reminds me too of the restaurants, right? There's this enormous figure of new restaurants that go out of business, right? And so you can get somebody into the restaurant, right? You can play the numbers guy. Hey, come into the restaurant, come in. It's got a new thing. Hey, come into the restaurant. But the restaurants that last, they develop relationships with their customers. They have a great product. They take care of you. They make you happy that you're there, and they leave you wanting more. And so, very much so for these folks that are in the true numbers game and they're just hitting people, right? They're not going to be along for the long term, right? They're boilerplate. Absolutely. Let's keep it moving.
We want to keep this rolling here. So I want to ask the community to type in the word what, WHAT, hashtag what. And we want to move into another question here because we've got a few others, and I don't know if we're going to get to them all. But so let's keep these next as consolidated as we can. But what does it mean to have a recognizable brand in a hyper crowded marketplace? We've sort of touched on that a little bit, but maybe you could dig into that just a little bit more.
Boy, I'll tell you, the personal branding conversation, which I've been a part of since I first heard of it, I would say I can pinpoint it to around 2010 when LinkedIn was really turning the corner as a social media platform. And in April of 2011, they eclipsed 100 million users. And that's when we really started hearing about people as the product, people as the service. The personal brand conversation was in full force. And I was all over it, man. I lifted my leg as high as I could to mark territory in that space because I loved it. It appeals to me. It's a uniquely neural concept that operates at the highest intellectual and emotional centers of the brain. And it's how we use LinkedIn, in my opinion, in my humble opinion, to create a sticky association of ourselves, how we bundle ourselves in with our product, our service, our niche, our company, our skill sets, our book, our podcast, etc., so that there's no way that's coming out of the brain. It is frontal lobe all the way. And when people think of your product or service, ideally, you ascend what I call the psychic hierarchy and you come top of mind. That's the whole top of mind concept. So to be recognizable, you're out there on LinkedIn, you've made a deep and visceral connection with someone. They start to recognize your thumbnail out there in the discussion boards, on the homepage. They see you in their direct messaging. They occasionally will be motivated to see your profile if you've come up in LinkedIn notifications. That's how you start to build this LinkedIn brand. Because my goal, as it's always been, when people think of LinkedIn, I would hope they think of JD Gershbein as a guy, as a resource, as someone who,
if nothing more than going to remember those glasses,
or the round glasses, or the owl visage on my profile banner. I get more comments on my profile banner than I do the actual content, which I guess is working for me. But to your question, the recognizable brand, this is what we strive to do, Steve and Cameron. Branding is not guaranteed to anybody. You've got to work real hard at it every damn day to get your name and your face out there and your context and let people absorb it on their own terms, stylishly, of course, but it comes back to you, because then when people do have a need or a want, or your name comes up, they think of the product or service, and maybe they're messaging you, or maybe the time is right to engage.
So this is right along the same line. Diana says, is there an effective way to blend a personal brand with a professional brand? And we've spoken on this, right? Living your brand, right? When you are not the service you sell.
I see a lot of folks separating personal from professional brand. I think personal branding is the term that really kind of gets the attention right now. I don't dichotomize. I think a brand is a brand, and a brand is a business concept. I'm a different guy out in the party world, or when I go to social events. Of course, I love to talk business anytime. Anybody wants to tap me on the shoulder, ask me a LinkedIn question, I will oblige. But for the most part, my brand is uniquely tied to my place in the business universe. And my professional brand is one of my core values, my ethics, my honesty, my integrity, my humility, my empathy, my authenticity. Whereas my personal brand is, I'm a baseball player, I'm a piano player, I'm a husband, father, dog owner, Chicago Cubs fan, that kind of thing.
Yeah, that's awesome. So I want to we're at the end of the show here, but really we are. It flew by. I mean, absolutely. But this is
I have
great.
So much more to give, Steve.
I know. I wanted to ask you about emotional interest. How to create emotional interest. So maybe you could give like a sentence or two on that, a little teaser, and then if you could just tell our audience a little bit on how the best way to connect with you, reach you. Yep. So type in, before JD speaks, type in #interest. But we want to definitely ask a little bit about emotional interest in your product and your services and your skills, et cetera. And then tell us a little bit, tell the group, the audience, the viewers, our community, how to reach you.
I think anybody that wants to create emotional interest has to appeal to the sensibilities, but most importantly, the pain points of those they want to serve. And I have a very good handle as to why people retain me for the work I do. And hopefully, dear listener, you as well. If you are around client pain and can pull back a little bit on the throttle in talking about how cool you are, and focusing on why you are the logical solution or the logical product or service for the client, that's where you really do get that emotional interest. You get buy-in from the conversation partner. They become interested. And certainly if in my realm, I know that people are having difficulty extracting value out of LinkedIn. They have since the inception of the site, and it's only getting more complex. They want to have a better profile. They want to build a more robust, tightly knit, cohesive network. They want to create content. They don't know when to post. They see other people succeeding and creating business wins, and they want in. And that's why I'm in the conversations I'm in. And when I create emotional interest, it's to gauge their commitment and not come off as a snake oil salesman, and try to match their want and need with my area of service. And if it's a good fit, if we feel we mesh, we engage. If not, there's a connection there. I'll always be happy to answer questions. I may see them down the road at a virtual event. So it pays to be nice to people. You create a lot of emotional interest by just being kind to people. I mean, have we forgotten how to do that? Why are there so many kindness coaches out there?
Yeah, it's a lost art for sure. Well, I'm hoping Cameron can do this for us, but I know you're offering a 30-minute free consultation, complimentary consultation on a profile assessment as an offer. There you go. Thank you, Cameron. You're the man.
Did I say that? Did I really say that?
Well,
or am I just saying that because everybody's here?
But mention the Master Connector show. Obviously, if you do reach out to JD, I definitely that link there is a great way to reach him. How else would be a great way for people to reach you as well?
It shouldn't surprise anybody, Steve and Cameron, that I have a LinkedIn account.
Really?
And for folks watching the live, best way to reach me, click on over to my profile, take a look, make yourself comfortable. I have a like an always be scrolling. I like to keep people on my page as long as possible because there's some hidden treasures if you spend some time on that page.
Good stuff. That's awesome. Well, good stuff. ABS. Always be scrolling.
Always be scrolling.
Like it. So good stuff. Well, we're really at the top of the hour here. Well past. It was worth it. Definitely, the conversation was great. We appreciate you. We want to thank our sponsors, the Sales Connector with Weston Limos, and the Glacial Trail with Jordan Mendoza. Go to our masterconnector.show page and website, and you can go and see a little bit more about our sponsors and what some of the upcoming shows that we have coming up. And speaking of which, Cameron, who do we have coming up next?
So next week, we are excited to bring you Dana Knowles, and we'll be talking about why hitting rock bottom is awesome. That's going to be a very interesting conversation and one that you don't want to miss if you're feeling guilty because you didn't hit rock bottom, right? So it's definitely one of those things because a lot of people have some very interesting origin stories, whether that origin happened in their childhood or at 40 years old, right? That conversation about hitting rock bottom. So join us, same bat time, same bat channel next week on JD Gershbein's favorite platform, LinkedIn, to have that conversation.
And by the way, good news for our viewers. We just, I think 88 something episodes have been uploaded to both podcast and Spotify. So
get on there, give us a good review, even if you don't like it. 5 stars. There you go.
Yes, for sure. Definitely. Go check out our podcast. This way you can re-listen. If you're not by a computer, you can go on right on your phone. And you can go and watch and listen, but listen to some of the episodes. And it's exciting to be on officially podcasters now as well. So good stuff. But we're going to end this like we always do, right, Cameron? We're going to count down to crush it. And we just appreciate our community. We just love everybody. And just hopefully.
All right, so JD, you're going to hold up your 5 fingers. We're going to do this 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 countdown. Here we go.
Ready?
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Go out there and crush it. Have an amazing week, everybody. We will see you next week. JD, thank you for being an amazing guest. Our audience, man, we can't thank you enough. We had so many people in the comments today. Jabez wasn't showing up, but we want to give you love. Joseph Zahidis in the house, Diana Mooring, so many people. Yolanda Chen, our loyal community member. We can't say how much we love you, Yolanda. Thank you so much for showing up. Lisa Shaw, going through the names, Robert Snyder, who wasn't also showing up. You can go to that StreamYard.com/Facebook. That'll allow you to show up in the stream. Joey Himmelfarb. There's so many people in here. Thank you so much. Alexis Poblete. I'm trying to scroll through and it's not letting me scroll through. Thank you so much for being a part of the show. JD, thank you.
My pleasure, guys. Thank you.
Steve Spiro, you're a mentor, you're a consultant, you're a business owner, but most importantly, you're a host of your own show and you're also a master connector.
Steve Spiro is one of my idols, and I love listening to everything that he does. He's such a dynamic individual.
Some of the topics I really enjoy speaking on is how to really connect, whether it be in person or through social media. I love to lead with my weaknesses. I lead with, my vulnerabilities. It's fine because I'm okay with who I am. Number 2 is how to go from being inward focused, self-focused, into others focused. Being willing to give and go out there and look to serve. That will attract the right things. Another one is on leveraging LinkedIn to really grow your business. You could reach a lot more people. You could broadcast a message to people that actually consented to want to know you. And then lastly, overcoming big obstacles. I love sharing. I was a shy, introverted kid, picked on, bullied, learning disabled, dyslexic, really in a dark place. I was really in a box, in a shell, and I've been able to break out of that box. And so I love being able to inspire people and really help them. So the Master Connector was born. The world is my networking event, right? I meet people all the time. My goal is to meet 3 strangers every single day.
Steve is open to meeting you. You should set up a face-to-face with Steve. One little conversation can really change your life.